The emergency room at Mercy General Hospital hums with the quiet efficiency of a late-night shift. Fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the polished floors as Jonathan Washington pushes his cleaning cart down the corridor, his movements deliberate and observant. At 48, he carries himself with a quiet dignity that somehow transcends the simple uniform he wears, navy blue with Johnny embroidered on the chest pocket. Near the triage desk, a commotion draws his attention. An elderly black man, maybe 70, clutches his chest while his worried wife supports his weight. They approach the reception area where Catherine Miller, the head nurse, reviews paperwork with practiced indifference. Her blonde hair is pulled back in a tight bun, and her pale blue eyes barely lift from her clipboard as the couple approaches. "Please," the elderly woman says, her voice trembling with worry. "My husband is having chest pains. They're getting worse." Catherine glances up briefly, taking in their worn clothing and tired faces. "What insurance do you have?" The woman fumbles through her purse. "We have Medicare and a supplemental plan, but I'm going to stop you right there." Catherine interrupts, her tone professionally cold. "This is a private facility. You'd be better served at City General. They specialize in cases like yours." Jonathan stops cleaning, his grip tightening on the mop handle. He watches as the old man sways slightly, beads of sweat forming on his forehead despite the cool air conditioning. "But he needs help now." The wife pleads. "The chest pains are getting stronger." "Ma'am, I understand your concern," Catherine replies, her voice carrying the practiced patience of someone used to difficult conversations. "But City General has the resources to properly handle your husband's condition. They'll take excellent care of him there." Jonathan can't remain silent. He approaches slowly, his voice respectful but firm. "Excuse me, miss. This gentleman appears to be in distress. Shouldn't we—" Catherine's head snaps toward him, her eyes flashing with irritation. "Excuse me. Who are you to interrupt a medical discussion? I just think—" "You think?" Catherine's voice rises, drawing attention from nearby staff. "You're a janitor. Your job is to clean floors, not to offer medical opinions. You need to know your place and stay in it." The words hang in the air like a slap. Jonathan feels the familiar sting of prejudice, the assumption that his skin color and uniform define his worth. Around them, other staff members pause their work, some looking uncomfortable, others nodding in agreement with Catherine's assertion. "I just believe everyone deserves medical attention when they need it," Jonathan says quietly. "And they'll get it, at the appropriate facility." Catherine snaps back. "This is a private hospital with standards to maintain. We can't just take anyone who walks through those doors." The elderly man's breathing becomes more labored. His wife looks desperately between Catherine and Jonathan, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Please, somebody help us." Jonathan steps forward again, but Catherine raises her hand like a stop sign. "Security, we have a situation here. This employee is interfering with hospital operations and needs to be removed from the area immediately." Two security guards approach, their hands resting casually on their radios. The couple watches in growing panic as the man who tried to help them faces potential ejection from the building. "Sir, you need to return to your duties," one guard says, though his tone suggests he's uncomfortable with the situation. After Catherine dismisses the couple with directions to City General, Jonathan helps them quietly arrange transportation to the other hospital. As he assists the elderly man to a wheelchair, something falls from his uniform pocket, a metallic card that catches the fluorescent light. The inscription reads, "Founder Access, Level 10, with a logo that matches the hospital's insignia." Jonathan quickly retrieves the card, glancing around to ensure no one noticed. His eyes meet those of the elderly woman, and for just a moment she sees something there, a depth of purpose that seems at odds with his humble position. As the taxi pulls away with the couple, Jonathan stands in the doorway, his jaw set with quiet determination. The past 3 weeks have been a careful investigation, but this moment crystallizes everything his friend Robert warned him about. Robert's words echo in his memory. "Man, your hospital is beautiful, but when I brought my mother there for chest pains, they treated us like we didn't belong. Made us feel like charity cases who should be grateful for scraps." Jonathan, known to the hospital staff only as Johnny Williams, had insisted it must be isolated incidents. Mercy General was his dream realized, built with $150 million of his own fortune and designed to serve everyone regardless of race or economic status. But Robert's experience, combined with other troubling reports, had compelled him to see for himself. Now, as he returns to his cleaning duties, Jonathan's mind races with what he's witnessed. This isn't just about one nurse or one incident. This appears to be systematic discrimination, a betrayal of everything he envisioned when he secretly funded this hospital's construction. His thoughts drift to his mother, Elizabeth, now 70, and living comfortably thanks to his success. She'd worked as a hospital janitor for 30 years, facing daily indignities and casual racism while maintaining her dignity and work ethic. "Son," she used to tell him, "money might not change the color of your skin, but a good heart can change the world." Her words had inspired his anonymous philanthropy, including this hospital built in memory of his father. Jonathan pulls out his father's old watch, a simple timepiece with an inscription on the back. "Character is destiny." His father had been a mechanic who died too young, but not before teaching his son that true worth isn't measured by others' expectations or prejudices. The decision to work undercover had seemed like the right approach. Through his connections with the temp agency that provided hospital cleaning staff, he'd arranged to be hired as Johnny Williams for a month-long assignment. The false identity allowed him to observe the hospital's culture from the bottom up, to see how staff treated both patients and each other when they thought no one important was watching. What he's discovered breaks his heart and steels his resolve simultaneously. Over the following nights, Jonathan's covert investigation reveals a pattern of discrimination that runs deeper than he feared. He witnesses Catherine and her allies consistently steering Black and Hispanic patients toward the public hospital, using insurance technicalities and capacity issues as pretexts for what amounts to racial profiling. During his second week, Jonathan observes Dr. David Thompson, a young white physician, attempting to admit an elderly Black woman experiencing stroke symptoms. Catherine intervenes smoothly, her voice professional but firm. "Doctor, we're at capacity in neurology tonight. City General has an excellent stroke unit, and the patient would receive faster treatment there." Dr. Thompson checks his tablet, confusion creasing his brow. "But we have 2 empty beds in neuro, and her symptoms suggest she needs immediate intervention." "Doctor." Catherine's tone carries a subtle warning. "I've been managing patient flow here for 2 years. Trust my experience in these matters." Jonathan continues mopping nearby, invisible in the way that service workers often become. He watches the doctor reluctantly agree to the transfer, while the woman's family pleads for her to be treated immediately. 20 minutes later, a well-dressed white family arrives with their teenager suffering a concussion from a soccer injury, and Catherine personally escorts them to the same neurology unit she claimed was full. The pattern becomes undeniable. Room availability mysteriously appears for white patients, while Black and Hispanic families are told about delays, insurance complications, or the superior services available elsewhere. When minority patients do get admitted, they're assigned to older rooms or face longer wait times for routine procedures. But Catherine's discrimination extends beyond patients. Jonathan notices how she assigns the heaviest workloads to minority staff members, how she scrutinizes their break times more closely, and how she phrases criticism in ways that carry racial undertones. Dr. Lisa Brown, a 32-year-old Black physician fresh from Harvard Medical School, becomes a particular target. During a staff meeting Jonathan overhears while cleaning an adjacent conference room, Catherine questions Dr. Brown's cultural fit with the hospital's clientele. I'm not questioning her medical competence, Catherine tells the other supervisors. But our patients come from a certain socio-economic background. They expect a particular level of refinement in their care providers. The coded language makes Jonathan's blood boil, but he maintains his cover, continuing to empty waste baskets while mentally recording every detail. Marcus Johnson, a 28-year-old black nursing assistant, faces similar subtle persecution. Catherine schedules him for the most difficult overnight shifts, assigns him to the most challenging patients, and documents minor infractions that wouldn't merit attention if committed by white staff members. When Jonathan occasionally witnesses these injustices and offers quiet support to the affected workers, he's struck by how grateful they are for even small gestures of solidarity. Dr. Brown thanks him when he anonymously leaves encouraging notes. Marcus appreciates when Jonathan volunteers to help with his heavier cleaning duties during particularly brutal shifts. These small interactions reveal the isolation that minority staff members feel within the hospital hierarchy. They see the discrimination but feel powerless to challenge it directly without risking their careers. The situation reaches a boiling point during Jonathan's third week when he accidentally overhears Catherine on the phone in her office, speaking to someone she believes is a colleague at another private hospital. We've had to become more creative about maintaining our demographic balance, she says, unaware that Jonathan is replacing the trash liner just outside her partially open door. You can't just turn people away anymore, but there are always legitimate medical reasons for transfers: insurance complications, specialized treatment needs, capacity limitations. You know the drill. The voice on the other end is muffled, but Catherine's response is clear. Exactly. Our board expects us to maintain a certain image. Our paying patients don't want to feel like they're in some inner-city emergency room. Jonathan's hands tremble slightly as he continues his work, the implications of what he's hearing settling over him like a weight. This isn't just bias or poor judgment. It's a calculated system designed to exclude people who look like him, like his parents, like the friends and family members he grew up with in Detroit. That same evening, Catherine's suspicions about Jonathan begin to surface. She's noticed him lingering near sensitive conversations, his presence in areas where cleaning isn't immediately necessary, and his habit of asking questions that seem beyond the scope of a temporary janitor's curiosity. During a staff meeting the next morning, she decides to act on her suspicions. Jonathan is in a supply closet inventorying cleaning materials, part of his effort to understand the hospital's operations, when Catherine appears in the doorway with 2 security guards. "What exactly are you doing in here?" she demands, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to intimidating subordinate employees. Jonathan looks up calmly, holding a clipboard where he's been noting supply levels. "Taking inventory of cleaning supplies. We're running low on several items." "That's not part of your job description," Catherine snaps. "You're here to clean designated areas, not to inventory supplies or wander around unauthorized sections of the hospital." "I was trying to be thorough." "Thorough?" Catherine's voice rises. "Or are you looking for something specific? Security cameras have you recorded in multiple restricted areas over the past few weeks." The accusation hangs in the air, and Jonathan realizes that his investigation has been noticed. Other staff members gather in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. "I was just doing my job," Jonathan says evenly. "Your job doesn't include lurking around administrative areas or listening to private conversations," Catherine retorts. "In fact, I'm beginning to wonder if you're here under false pretenses." She turns to address the growing crowd of hospital employees. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want everyone to be aware that we may have a security breach. This individual has been accessing areas beyond his clearance level and exhibiting suspicious behavior." Dr. Brown pushes through the crowd, her voice uncertain but supportive. "Johnny's been nothing but helpful since he started here. He's always respectful and hard-working." Catherine whirls on her. "Dr. Brown, your judgment in personnel matters is not being solicited. This is a security issue." Marcus Johnson steps forward as well. I've worked with Johnny on several shifts. He's never done anything inappropriate. Both of you need to step back, Catherine commands. Your support of this individual raises questions about your own judgment and professional priorities. The threat is barely veiled, but unmistakable. Dr. Brown and Marcus exchange worried glances, understanding that their defense of Jonathan has put their own positions at risk. Catherine continues her public humiliation. We've had reports of missing medical supplies, and this individual has been found in restricted areas without proper authorization. I'm recommending a full investigation and immediate suspension pending the results. Jonathan maintains his composure despite the false accusations and public embarrassment. He understands that Catherine is using this moment to reassert her authority while simultaneously discrediting the one person who's been witnessing her discriminatory practices. If there are concerns about my conduct, Jonathan says quietly, I'm happy to address them through proper channels. The proper channel, Catherine announces, is your immediate removal from this facility while we investigate these serious allegations. The crowd murmurs, some nodding in agreement with Catherine's decisive action, others looking uncomfortable with the public nature of the accusation. Jonathan sees the fear in Dr. Brown's and Marcus's eyes. They want to defend him, but understand that doing so could cost them their careers. As security prepares to escort him out, Jonathan makes a mental note of everyone present, everyone who's witnessing this moment of injustice. Soon, he knows, this scene will take on very different meaning for all of them. The moment that changes everything arrives on a busy Friday evening during Jonathan's 4th week. He's scheduled for what he knows will be his final shift as Johnny Williams, having gathered enough evidence to support decisive action. The emergency department buzzes with typical late-week activity when ambulance sirens announce an incoming emergency. Paramedics rush through the doors, supporting a 10-year-old black girl named Zoe, blood seeping through bandages on her arm and leg. Her mother, Sarah, runs alongside the stretcher, her face streaked with tears and panic. She was riding her bike when a car ran the stop sign. Sarah explains breathlessly to the triage nurse. She's lost a lot of blood, and her arm looks broken. The initial assessment reveals significant injuries requiring immediate attention. A compound fracture in her left arm, deep lacerations requiring stitches, and possible internal injuries that need imaging. Any objective medical professional would recognize this as a clear emergency requiring immediate care. Catherine appears at the triage desk, reviews the chart briefly, and makes her decision with practiced efficiency. "Mom, I'm going to be honest with you," she tells Sarah, her voice carrying false sympathy. "Your daughter needs specialized pediatric trauma care. City General has a dedicated pediatric emergency unit with specialists who are specifically trained for cases like this." Sarah looks confused and desperate. "But she's bleeding so much. Can't you just stop the bleeding first?" The liability issues with pediatric trauma are complex, Catherine explains, her tone suggesting she's doing the family a favor. City General's pediatric specialists will provide much better care than our general emergency physicians. It's really in Zoe's best interest. Dr. Thompson, the young physician Jonathan has observed over the past weeks, approaches the desk after examining Zoe. "Catherine, this child needs immediate surgical consultation for her arm fracture, and we need to rule out internal bleeding. She can't wait for a transfer." Catherine's expression hardens. "Doctor, City General's pediatric trauma unit is specifically equipped for cases like this. Our orthopedic surgeon isn't pediatric certified, and we don't have the specialized equipment for children this young." Jonathan knows this is false. He's observed the orthopedic surgeon successfully treating children during his time here, and the hospital's marketing materials specifically advertise comprehensive pediatric emergency services. Dr. Thompson checks his phone. "But Dr. Martinez is here tonight, and he's board-certified in pediatric orthopedics. Plus, this child is losing blood. Time is critical." "Doctor," Catherine's voice carries a warning edge, I'm responsible for patient flow and liability management. This decision is final. Sarah clutches Zoe's uninjured hand as her daughter whimpers in pain. Please, I'm begging you. She's hurt so badly. Catherine softens her voice in a display of manufactured compassion. I understand your worry, but we want what's best for Zoe. City General will take excellent care of her. Jonathan watches this scene unfold from his position near the supply closet, his heart breaking for the terrified mother and injured child. This is the moment he's been dreading and preparing for, a clear case where Catherine's discrimination could result in serious harm to a child. He steps forward, his voice calm but firm. Excuse me, Mom. This little girl needs medical attention right now. She can't wait for a transfer. The entire triage area goes silent. Catherine turns slowly, her face flushing with anger at this public challenge to her authority. What did you just say? Her voice is dangerously quiet. I said this child needs immediate medical care? Jonathan repeats, his eyes meeting Catherine's directly. Anyone can see she's in critical condition. Catherine's composure snaps completely. How dare you? You're a janitor, a temporary employee. You have no medical training, no authority, and no right to interfere with medical decisions. Her voice echoes through the emergency department, drawing the attention of every patient, family member, and staff member in the area. Security guards begin moving towards the scene. You want to play doctor? Catherine continues, her voice rising with each word. You want to tell trained medical professionals how to do their jobs? This is exactly why people like you need to know your place. The racial undertone in people like you isn't lost on anyone present. Several staff members look uncomfortable, while others nod in agreement with Catherine's outburst. Sarah looks back and forth between Catherine and Jonathan, confused by the confrontation, but desperate for someone to help her daughter. Security! Catherine shouts. Remove this individual from the premises immediately. He's disrupting medical operations and creating a dangerous situation. Two security guards approach Jonathan, their expressions apologetic but dutiful. Sir, you need to come with us. Dr. Brown pushes through the crowd, her voice shaking but determined. Catherine, wait. Johnny's right. This child needs immediate attention. Dr. Brown. Catherine snaps. You are out of line. Your judgment has been questionable since you arrived here, and this outburst confirms my concerns about your professional development. Marcus Johnson steps forward as well. The little girl is really hurt. Can't we just— Marcus, you're suspended as of right now. Catherine announces. Security, escort both of these individuals out along with the janitor. They're all disrupting critical medical operations. The emergency department has become a theater, with dozens of people watching the confrontation unfold. Families with their own medical emergencies find themselves witnessing what appears to be a security crisis involving a child's medical care. As security guards place hands on Jonathan's arms, he looks directly at Zoe, who's becoming increasingly pale from blood loss. Her mother's pleas for someone to help her daughter grow more desperate. Mom, Jonathan says to Sarah, his voice carrying calm authority despite the chaos. Don't let anyone tell you your daughter doesn't deserve the best care possible. Every child deserves that. Catherine's final words follow him as security begins to escort him toward the exit. This is what happens when people don't know their place. This is what happens when you let anyone think they can challenge proper authority. The doors to the emergency department close behind Jonathan, but through the glass he can see Zoe still waiting for care while her mother pleads with anyone who will listen. The sight steels his resolve for what must happen next. Outside the hospital's main entrance, a crowd has gathered. Family members of other patients, some discharged patients, and several hospital staff members who've followed the commotion outside. The scene has created enough disturbance that a few people are recording with their phones, sensing that something significant is unfolding. Jonathan stands calmly in the middle of this growing audience, his demeanor shifting subtly from the deferential maintenance worker to something more commanding. He pulls out his phone and speed dials a familiar number. "Dr. Hayes, this is Jonathan Washington. I need you in the main lobby immediately." The crowd murmurs at the use of what seems to be an assumed name, and Catherine, who has followed the group outside to ensure Jonathan's complete removal, laughs with bitter satisfaction. Did everyone hear that? Now he's pretending to be someone important. This is exactly the kind of delusional behavior I was talking about. Several people in the crowd nod, accepting Catherine's narrative that they're witnessing the breakdown of a troubled employee. But Jonathan's calm confidence and the way he carries himself begins to create doubt in some observers. Within minutes, a well-dressed man in his 50s hurries through the hospital's main entrance. Dr. William Hayes, the hospital's chief medical officer, approaches the crowd with obvious concern and confusion about the situation he's been called to address. "What's happening here?" Dr. Hayes asks, looking around at the assembled crowd. Catherine steps forward eagerly. "Dr. Hayes, this individual is a temporary janitor who became disruptive and began interfering with medical decisions. He was making wild claims about being someone important and demanded to speak with hospital leadership." Dr. Hayes glances at Jonathan, and for a moment his expression shows only the polite attention he would give any staff member in crisis. But as he looks more closely, his face begins to change. "I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?" Dr. Hayes asks Jonathan. "Jonathan Washington." He replies simply. Dr. Hayes pulls out his phone and opens an app, his fingers navigating to a secure video calling feature. On the screen appears a profile image deliberately kept obscured for privacy reasons, the anonymous founder who communicates with hospital leadership only through encrypted video calls. Dr. Hayes looks at the image on his phone, then at Jonathan, then back at the phone. His face goes pale as recognition dawns. "Oh my God," he whispers, his voice barely audible. Catherine, still confident in her narrative, doesn't notice Dr. Hayes's reaction. "Doctor, as you can see, this individual is clearly experiencing some kind of mental health crisis. He needs to be removed from the premises and—" "Catherine," Dr. Hayes interrupts, his voice shaking. "Do you know who this is?" "Yes, he's a temporary janitor named Johnny Williams who—" "This is Jonathan Washington," Dr. Hayes says, his voice growing stronger with each word. "This is the founder of this hospital." The crowd goes completely silent. Catherine's face transitions from confidence to confusion to dawning horror. "That's impossible," she stammers. He's a janitor." Dr. Hayes turns to address the crowd, his voice carrying the authority of his position and the weight of his shock. "Ladies and gentlemen, I owe everyone here an apology. This is indeed Jonathan Washington, the philanthropist who funded the construction of Mercy General Hospital. He chose to remain anonymous, and we've only communicated through secure video calls until now." The murmur from the crowd grows louder as people pull out phones to record what they're realizing is a significant moment. Catherine stands frozen, her world collapsing as the implications become clear. "Mr. Washington," Dr. Hayes continues, "I had no idea you were conducting an inspection. If I had known, that's exactly why I didn't announce myself." Jonathan replies, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to command. "I needed to see how this hospital operates when no one thinks the founder is watching." He turns to face Catherine directly, and when he speaks, his words carry the weight of everything he's witnessed over the past month. "Ms. Miller, you said that people like me need to know our place. You're absolutely right. My place is ensuring that this hospital serves everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin." Catherine tries to speak, but no words come. The woman who minutes earlier was commanding security guards and dismissing medical opinions now stands powerless before the man whose vision and money created the very institution she's been corrupting. Dr. Hayes looks around at the assembled crowd. Patients, families, staff members, and passers-by who've been drawn to the commotion. Mr. Washington, what can we do to address the situation inside? The little girl gets the best care this hospital can provide. Jonathan says firmly. Immediately. He pulls out his phone and makes a call. Dr. Martinez, this is Jonathan Washington. I need you in the emergency department right now for a pediatric trauma case. Yes, you heard correctly. Thank you. As Dr. Hayes rushes back inside to personally oversee Zoe's care, Jonathan addresses the crowd that has witnessed this unprecedented reversal of fortune. 3 weeks ago, my friend Robert told me about his experience at this hospital. He said his family was made to feel unwelcome, like they didn't belong in a place that was supposed to serve everyone. I built this hospital to honor my parents' memory and to ensure that quality healthcare was available to everyone in this community, regardless of their ability to pay or the color of their skin. He pauses, looking directly at Catherine, who remains frozen in shock and humiliation. What I discovered here over the past month broke my heart. A systematic pattern of discrimination that turned my dream into the very thing I built it to replace. The crowd hangs on every word, understanding they're witnessing not just a dramatic reversal, but a moment of moral reckoning. Ms. Miller, you asked me to know my place. Well, this is my place, standing up for every person who's been told they don't belong, every family who's been turned away, every staff member who's been made to feel less than equal. Catherine finally finds her voice, but it comes out as a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't know who I was. Jonathan corrects her. But you knew exactly what you were doing to those families, to those patients, to the staff members who tried to stand up for what's right. He gestures toward the hospital entrance, where through the glass windows they can see Dr. Martinez rushing toward the emergency department. The measure of a person isn't their title or their wealth or their skin color. It's how they treat others when they think no one important is watching. Jonathan doesn't wait for Catherine's response. Instead, he turns to Dr. Hayes, who has returned to report on Zoe's condition. Dr. Hayes, I want a full review of our patient admission patterns over the past 6 months. I want to know every family that was unnecessarily transferred, every patient who was discouraged from seeking care here, and every staff member who tried to do the right thing and faced retaliation for it. Yes, sir, absolutely. And I want Ms. Miller's employment terminated immediately, with a full documentation of the reasons why. This kind of discrimination has no place in medicine, and it certainly has no place in an institution built to serve this entire community. As security guards escort Catherine from the premises, a reversal that seems to embody the complete inversion of power that has just occurred, Jonathan addresses the crowd one final time. This hospital will live up to its founding mission. Every person who walks through those doors will be treated with dignity, respect, and the highest quality care we can provide. That's not just a promise. It's a commitment backed by every resource I have. The crowd begins to disperse, many still filming, others calling friends and family to share what they've witnessed. But Jonathan's work is just beginning. 6 months later, Mercy General Hospital has become a different institution entirely. The changes Jonathan implemented weren't just administrative. They were cultural, systematic, and designed to prevent discrimination from taking root again. Dr. Lisa Brown was promoted to Chief of Emergency Medicine, making her the youngest department head in the hospital's history. Her first initiative was implementing bias training for all medical staff, using real scenarios to help healthcare providers recognize and address their unconscious prejudices. Marcus Johnson was promoted to Patient Advocate Coordinator, a new position designed to ensure that every patient receives equal treatment regardless of their background. His personal experience with discrimination gives him unique insight into the challenges minority patients face. The Elizabeth Washington Memorial Fund, named after Jonathan's mother, provides free healthcare to uninsured and underinsured patients. The fund covers not just emergency care, but ongoing treatment, prescription medications, and follow-up appointments that many patients previously couldn't afford. Jonathan established a whistleblower protection program that allows staff members to report discrimination without fear of retaliation. The program is managed by an external firm to ensure independence and has already identified and addressed several instances of bias that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. Most importantly, the hospital's patient demographics now reflect the community it serves. The percentage of minority patients has increased from 12% to 35%, matching the area's population distribution. Patient satisfaction scores have improved across all demographic groups, suggesting that the cultural changes have benefited everyone. Zoe, the 10-year-old girl whose emergency sparked the final confrontation, made a complete recovery. Her family received not just excellent medical care, but also ongoing support through the Memorial Fund. Jonathan personally ensured that Zoe's education would be fully funded through college, viewing it as an investment in the community's future. The story of the billionaire janitor spread far beyond the hospital's walls. Video footage from that night went viral on social media, inspiring discussions about healthcare inequality, workplace discrimination, and the importance of treating every person with dignity, regardless of their apparent social status. Other hospital systems began implementing similar oversight programs, with several CEOs following Jonathan's example of conducting unannounced inspections of their own facilities. The Washington model of healthcare equality became a case study in business schools and medical education programs across the country. But for Jonathan, the most meaningful change is what he sees during his regular visits to the hospital, visits he now makes openly as the founder and major benefactor. He sees families of all backgrounds receiving care with equal attention and respect. He sees staff members who feel empowered to advocate for patients without fear of punishment. He sees the dream he envisioned when he first decided to build Mercy General finally becoming reality. On a quiet evening 6 months after the confrontation, Jonathan sits in his study at home, reviewing the hospital's latest patient satisfaction reports. His mother, Elizabeth, now 71, brings him tea and settles into the chair beside his desk. "You know, son," she says, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who spent decades cleaning hospitals while dreaming of something better. "Your father would be proud of what you've done." Jonathan looks up from his reports, noting the improved scores across all demographics, the increased community trust, and the positive feedback from staff members who feel valued and empowered. "Mom, do you think I did the right thing, going undercover like that?" Elizabeth Washington smiles, the same smile that encouraged a young boy from Detroit to believe he could change the world. "Son, sometimes the only way to see the truth is to experience it yourself. You didn't just build a hospital, you built a legacy of treating people right." Through the window of his study, Jonathan can see the lights of Mercy General Hospital in the distance. The building represents more than bricks and mortar, more than advanced medical equipment and skilled physicians. It represents the possibility that institutions can change, that individuals can make a difference, and that justice sometimes requires people with power to step outside their comfort zones and experience the world as others see it. His phone buzzes with a text message from Dr. Hayes. "Monthly discrimination reports show 0 incidents this month. Culture change is taking hold. Thank you for showing us the way." Jonathan sets down his phone and returns to his reports, but his mind drifts to the broader implications of what happened at Mercy General. Across the country, in hospitals and businesses and institutions of all kinds, there are probably other Catherines, people whose prejudices and power combine to create systematic discrimination. And there are certainly other families like Zoe's, other staff members like Dr. Brown and Marcus, other patients who are judged by their appearance rather than their humanity. The question that keeps him awake some nights isn't whether he made the right decision to go undercover, but whether others with the power to create change will have the courage to do the same. Will other leaders step outside their executive suites and boardrooms to see how their organizations really function? Will they be willing to confront uncomfortable truths about the institutions they've built? As he prepares for bed, Jonathan catches his reflection in the hallway mirror. He sees a successful businessman, a philanthropist, a person whose wealth and influence open doors and command respect. But he also remembers the feeling of being dismissed, ignored, and discriminated against, emotions that are daily realities for millions of people who don't have his resources or platform. That dual perspective, he realizes, is perhaps the most valuable outcome of his month as Johnny Williams. It's easy to talk about equality and justice in the abstract, but much harder to create systems that actually deliver those ideals when faced with prejudice, fear, and institutional inertia. The next morning brings news that validates Jonathan's approach. A medical journal has requested to publish a case study about Mercy General's transformation, hoping to provide other healthcare systems with a roadmap for addressing discrimination. A documentary filmmaker has reached out about creating a film that would explore the broader issues of healthcare inequality. Most significantly, legislators in 3 states have introduced bills requiring hospitals to report demographic data about patient admissions and transfers, measures that could prevent the kind of systematic discrimination that Catherine had implemented. But perhaps the most meaningful validation comes in a letter from Sarah, Zoe's mother. The handwritten note thanks Jonathan not just for saving her daughter's life, but for showing her family that there are people in positions of power who care about justice and equality. Mr. Washington, the letter reads, you didn't have to risk your reputation or comfort to help people like us, but you did, and that gives me hope that my daughter will grow up in a world where she's judged by her character, not her skin color. Thank you for showing her that some people in power use it to lift others up. Jonathan folds the letter carefully and places it in his desk drawer, next to his father's watch and a photo of his parents. These reminders of where he came from and why he acts keep him grounded in the values that motivated his unusual investigation. The phone rings, interrupting his reflection. It's Dr. Hayes with the monthly operational report. Patient satisfaction scores continue to improve, staff retention is at an all-time high, and the hospital's reputation in the community has been completely transformed. More importantly, there have been no documented cases of discriminatory treatment in the past 4 months. Mr. Washington, Dr. Hayes concludes, I want you to know that this experience changed how I see everything. I thought I was running a good hospital, but I wasn't seeing what was really happening. Your courage to investigate and confront these issues has made me a better leader and this a better institution. After hanging up, Jonathan makes a decision that has been forming in his mind for weeks. He's going to expand the investigation model to his other business interests, the technology companies, the real estate developments, the investment funds that bear his name. Not because he suspects widespread problems, but because he's learned that good intentions aren't enough. Real leadership requires constant vigilance, uncomfortable truths, and the willingness to see institutions through the eyes of those they serve. The lesson of Mercy General isn't just about healthcare or discrimination. It's about the responsibility that comes with power and privilege. It's about the courage to step outside comfortable assumptions and experience reality as others know it. Most importantly, it's about the understanding that true leadership means creating systems that work for everyone, not just those who look like the people in charge. As Jonathan prepares for another day of running his business empire, he carries with him the memories of being Johnny Williams, the dismissive comments, the casual prejudice, the assumption that his skin color and job title defined his worth. These memories aren't painful anymore. They're tools that help him build better institutions and make more thoughtful decisions. The story of the billionaire who disguised himself as a janitor has become more than a viral video or a feel-good news story. It's become a challenge to anyone with power and influence. Are you willing to see your organization through the eyes of those it serves? Are you prepared to confront uncomfortable truths about the institutions you lead? Do you have the courage to step outside your position of privilege and experience the world as others know it? For Jonathan Washington, these questions aren't theoretical. They're the foundation of how he approaches leadership, philanthropy, and the ongoing work of creating a more just and equitable society. The month he spent as Johnny Williams changed more than just Mercy General Hospital. It changed how he sees his responsibility to use power in service of justice. And in a world where discrimination and inequality persist in countless institutions, that perspective represents both a challenge and an opportunity for others to follow his example. The question isn't whether problems exist. They do. The question is whether those with the power to address them will have the courage to look for them in the first place.